Welcome to another writing vlog. It has been quite some time since I've done one of these, and that's because my manuscript has spent almost 2 months with beta readers, and there's a lot to still be done. But really quick, if you're new here, my name is Steph. I talk about the books that I'm reading on this channel and the book that I am trying to write. A quick recap of the project. The code name is Project Catabasis. It is a gothic fantasy. I wrote the first draft in sort of a burst of like 4 weeks. I think it was 70,000 words in dual POV, third person past. Then I started a new job, put it in a drawer, and in 2023 I revisited it. I rewrote the whole thing in first person present, still dual POV. But then I didn't touch it again until almost a year later, at the beginning of this year, when I started my third major revision. It was about 93,000 words, and that was really focusing on fleshing out some of the world building, making sure the plot makes sense and the pacing feels good, and just generally kind of getting a stronger sense of what this story was trying to be. And then in, I think June-ish, around June, I sent it off to my beta readers. So I sent them the document with a second little homework sheet of a collection of questions that were sort of focused on two fronts, the plot and the characterization. For the plot, nothing too significant was highlighted as feeling really slow or baggy or out of place. If anything, things could be slowed down a little bit. And there were a few areas that needed a little bit more clarification, but it was really more on a line level. So I felt pretty good about that. One person did note that the end did not feel too satisfying to them, but that could be a reading preference. But I think that that is kind of connected to the character work that needs to be done. That was the bulk of the feedback that I got in terms of areas that were sort of lacking. And when I handed over the document, I intentionally did not give them names at the top of the chapters, because I wanted to see if anybody mentioned that they were confused about whose perspective they were reading, and yes, indeed they were. So working on voice and character differentiation is the next sort of step, where ideally I think I would have probably have done this already or done this naturally, but because I've been writing this book over such a long period of time, the characters have really changed quite a bit. But I know how I want their voices to sound. The main issue that I was really anticipating and that my first readers confirmed was that one of my main POV characters needs a lot of work, like in terms of developing her personality, her backstory, and her character arc. And one of the things I was really happy to hear is that one of my beta readers said that she felt like the main character could be a lot meaner, because it is kind of a dark story. There is a lot of gross, yucky, awful things that are happening. People are getting murdered, and it makes sense for that main character to kind of be nastier. And I would like to strengthen the relationships a little bit between the two main characters and like explain why are they drawn to each other. I have a bit of a sort of a romantic subplot going as well, and that could use a little bit more development and work. So a lot of the feedback that I got revolves around developing the narration, the voice, and the personalities of the characters a little bit more, giving those details that differentiate them and making some of their goals and development really clear. My cat needs in, sorry. Over the last few days, I did a big printout and reread of my novel. It came out to 400 pages, double-spaced. I really hate working with things printed out. I know everybody says, like, this is something you should really do. It will improve your writing. You'll catch things that you wouldn't have caught before. Now I need to make a revision plan. I think I know what needs to happen. I had a few light bulb moments when I was thinking about that character that needs some development. It's just a matter of solidifying how and where I want to do that and actually implementing it. Yes? Oh, okay. Yeah. Today, I think I'm gonna just try and sit down for like 2 hours maybe and get started on planning how to attack this monster. And I will check in with you in a bit. I was on my way to the cafe, and then I walked past a burrito place with very cheap, very delicious burritos. So I ended up just stopping there for a little while and didn't end up doing a whole lot of filming because it's like a little chain place that it felt weird to film there. But I did get quite a bit of work done, and I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at. This is gonna take a couple of days to really plan, but I'll tell you where things are at. So I've kind of remapped my character sheet for this one character that needed a lot of work. And I've decided to give her a bit of a mantra that sort of will hopefully provide a bit more of a nice flow and structure to some of her internal thoughts, her world, and help clarify some of her decision making. I find Save the Cat really helpful to help give shape or structure to what I'm already kind of doing in my book. I don't necessarily go to Save the Cat like, I'm going to write, you know, this kind of novel. I kind of use it as a way to bring clarity to whatever I kind of got going. And I have thought for the longest time that I was writing a monster in the house story. I realized today that I'm reading a rites of passage story, at least in terms of this one character's perspective, and that is why it's a little bit foggy in the current version of the draft that I have, which I think is partly why it doesn't feel very satisfying. And so I need to make sure that there is a really clear arc and thread of those three elements and how those are interacting constantly with character throughout the story. I don't know if that makes sense. While I was just munching on my burrito, my science brain flicked on and I realized I can make a spreadsheet. So that's what I have done. So my main hope, character H is going to be the one that has the biggest development that is going to need to happen going forward. And I have this sorted by chapter. So chapter, POV, plot advancement, that's just kind of what is going on in the plot that is helping move things forward, how the character arc develops for the two POV characters, how their relationship develops, how another relationship that needs a bit more work is going to develop, and any kind of side character stuff that I should throw in. I don't know. I feel like this is gonna evolve quite a bit. This is just a very quick draft, but this is not advice. Like, I'm not telling you should do this because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to find a way that works, right? But my hope is that by seeing all of the big character beats laid out like that, side by side with the plot and how that's interacting with the other character relationships, that should hopefully make it a little bit easier. And then I can begin to revise front to back, probably in multiple waves, focusing on one specific character at a time. I don't want to make it too long. I very much come from a background of like academic, scientific writing, where you have 1,000 words and you need to get the most bang for your buck. And I can't kind of move out of that mindset. I feel like every scene needs to be doing multiple things for me at one time. I want descriptions and everything to feel efficient, but deep and interesting as well. So I have a weird balance in my head that I need to play with. There it is, getting really dark. But I feel like this is a very good start, and I need to do other things today. So I think that's it for the writing. I'm gonna be back in the morning. So I will see you at some point tomorrow. I'm gonna get up really early and hopefully I can at least finish the plan tomorrow. Okay, good morning. I am feeling pretty motivated this morning. Partly because I have decided that if I finish my work, I get to read Lady Macbeth. This just came out. I'm so excited. I'm filming a reading vlog of this actually as well. I think that will be coming out before this video, so it'll probably be like last week from whenever I upload this. But yeah, really excited. So today the plan is to finish filling out that Excel sheet. I don't want to rush this. I want to spend a lot of time really thinking about it carefully. So I don't have to kind of go back and constantly be editing because I'm pushing through it or I've burnt myself out. And I'm actually trying really hard not to burn myself out. Like, in my ideal mind, I would love to be able to finish the spreadsheet and do chapter 1. I have probably 3 hours to work, which is a nice chunk of time. That's sort of my ideal chunk of time in a day. And I know that if I push myself too hard, I'm gonna get burnt out and want to just check out mentally too soon in the future when it actually comes to be time for me to do the writing portion. Enjoy watching me sit with bad posture, working on my laptop, and living dangerously, putting my mug on the edge of the sofa. Hello, Hello. So I have about another hour of work left today, and I have slowed down a little bit because I've had an idea. While I was doing this outline, I was just thinking about some of like the mechanics of the story and how realistic is it to have certain events unfold in this way, particularly towards the end. And I had this idea that would be a small change, but would totally change the type of story it is and the end of the story. And I really like it. Like, I find it very exciting and kind of shocking. And I think that the reader would find it shocking. I texted one of my beta readers just now and was like, what if I did this instead? And she went, oh, damn. You have to think about the kind of story you want to tell. Like, if you're going to lean into the darkness and the gothic, this is pretty taboo and it could be very good. But how good of people do you want these characters to be? And to be honest, I don't tend to find extraordinarily good characters as interesting as the ones who desperately need therapy. I think I'm going to try it. Like, it's that kind of idea where, you know, it kind of scares you. But the thing that I kind of learned from my beta feedback was that in all of the areas of the story that people highlighted as like being strong and like really interesting, those were the areas that I felt like I was taking some risks and that I was really resonating with the story and like the narrative. It could be the right turn to take, but I just have to think about the implications of going through with that. That was my couch groaning beneath me as I shifted position, just so you know. So I have to, that's what I'm going to be doing. I think I'm going to slow down. I might not finish today, or I might continue to work on it in the evening. I'm torn because at the end of the story, I want the reader to be able to root for the character. But at the same time, I don't want to write Little Miss and Little Mr. Perfect, right? I'm gonna have to chew on this for a little bit, but I think I'm gonna try it because nobody needs to know or see what I have done, and it's a very easy and pretty quick change to make. That's where things are at. That's what I'm feeling. We're gonna keep going. And for anyone who is wondering about Mr. Kitty, this is what he's been doing all day long. So the last couple of days, I have been finding myself thinking a lot about anger and reading a lot of nonfiction about it, because that seems to be one of the biggest things that's been holding back one of my characters' development, is that I just haven't really allowed her to be fully angry. And this morning I listened to a really good essay that was narrated by Julia Whalen called On Female Rage by Leslie Jameson. And then I have been like reading some of the other things that are cited in that essay. I'll link them all down below, including the Uses of Anger by Audre Lorde and the Hymn for the Black Terrific by Kiki Petrosino. But I've been just finding it very helpful. I like nonfiction because I don't have to worry about potentially sort of stealing someone else's voice or someone else's character, if it was like a fiction piece, becoming too influential in how I think about my work. I think in these essays and poetry, the cause and effect and process of anger is just laid out, and I just find it helpful to see some of that on the page as a way of like kind of facilitating my own processing and thinking about how would anger be expressed by the character that I'm writing. How can I explore that in a way that is really honest to her and begin formulating an external arc and like an internal narrative and dialogue for her. So when I got up this morning, I just felt super productive and I got started immediately on the work. I finished the spreadsheet at last and I'm actually feeling super good about it. Let me show you. So obviously it's going to be really blurred out, but yeah, I have some of it color coded so that I can kind of easily see as I scroll down, oh, this is for character S, or the romantic development, the friendship development later on. And then I added a couple of columns I might flesh out a little bit more as I continue through, just for the side characters' backstory, world building, just so I can make note of when I'm wanting to include some of that information. So the way that I've kind of done this is each character strip is where I have planned out all of the emotional beats that are being hit in that character's Save the Cat. So obviously both my characters, I've said before, have different Save the Cat beat sheets, but they are kind of united with the same overarching theme, and then they share a lot of the beats. So I'm hoping, like, again, as I've said, I don't really know what I'm doing. Part of this process of writing is me figuring out what works for me and generally figuring out what works and what doesn't work. But at least using this spreadsheet kind of system really helps me in terms of seeing how every little component is interacting with each other and just making sure that everything is completely on track. It's more on a scene level and how individual characters are having this internal dialogue and then exerting their agency to push things forward. Because a lot of it is I just need to clarify some of the character arcs that are going on, and having that bird's eye really helps. So tomorrow I'm gonna start writing, but I think I'm going to really feel hopefully quite proud of this iteration of the story, because I'm trying to lean into things that make me uncomfortable, not just uncomfortable for me to write, but also things that are challenging or uncomfortable for me to share. Because a lot of what hindered me in the last draft was, how do I like share this with my friends? What are they gonna think about me after I finish writing these like very angry characters? Or how do I share this with my mother? I didn't even realize at the time how much of my self-criticism and self-consciousness about my writing and my ideas was actually interfering with my ability to express them, which is a shame, but I'm glad that I am going forward with more awareness. I don't know, that feels like a very cheesy, weird thing to say, but I am excited, and I think that hopefully if I continue to kind of lean into this, that could be really fruitful for the draft. So that is my plan. That is my way of approaching integrating some of the beta feedback and working it out in terms of how I'm gonna go forward with my revision. But I am gonna finish the vlog here because I just feel like I've done a ton of talking and it's got to be pretty long at this point. And hopefully I will be back soon with another writing vlog and some more updates on how this is going very soon. But until then, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching this video. I would love to hear how you approach this, any of your tips and tricks in terms of integrating feedback or planning your revision when it's a really complex story. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon in another video. Bye.